Hey, my name's Zano, and you're listening to Anti Moonboy News. We got a good one for you today, folks. Today we're going to be covering day one of Monerokon. We'll also be taking a look at IntelBroker, getting caught with Bitcoin, and the return of Whirlpool. And we will also end things with an update on Zano. And speaking of which, hey robot, after my dedicated segment on Zano last week, have you changed your mind about investing my money into that project?
Beep boop. I have, yet again, broken into your bank account and have gone all in on Zano. Beep boop.
Well, joke's on you. I changed my password, so I doubt that's true.
Beep boop. The password is Monero-chan booba! Exclamation point. Beep boop.
Huh. I thought the exclamation point would have thrown you off. Well, regardless, we got a great show for you folks. But first, we have some super chats to get to. xmrchat.com/Zenu. If you would like to participate, shoot me a comment, question, etc. We got one this week. This one was from Sir James a lot, who gives 0.01 XMR. And he says, Zenu, really great research and work coming from you. I always learn a lot. Thanks. Well, thank you, Sir James a lot. I recognize you from Twitter. Your support is greatly appreciated. And yeah, you are filming some stuff too. I have been keeping an eye out on that as well. For the listeners, check out his Twitter. He's got some cool stuff he's cooking up there. And, you know, for my channel, I do have to keep mentioning this. And yeah, I really don't like bringing up like, you know, subscribing to the channel or whatever. But if you do, you know, take a second just to hit the subscribe button, just because you can stay up to date with my videos. I got a lot of new content coming out soon, TM. So keep an eye out for that. But, you know, it also helps me, helps the YouTube recommendation algorithm. I might be shadow banned. I don't really know, but it would help with that. My goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube by the end of the year. Also, I'm on Odyssey and Rumble, which we may rely on in the future. There was a story this week with that Bitcoin channel. What's the name of it? BTC Session, I think. They got just taken down randomly. Like, no explanation given. Now, thankfully, they're back up because enough people complained. But, yeah, I mean, YouTube, you can't trust them. That's why, like, I don't talk about anything edgy on this show, just because, like, I want this channel up as much as possible, just to get as much eyes as we can on, like, really important things. But, yeah, down the line, this channel could get, you know, taken down. And if that happens, then you're going to want to know how to access my content in other ways. So bookmark antimoonboy.com and definitely give me a follow on Odyssey or Rumble if you haven't yet, because I upload everything on there as well. All right. So anyways, we're going to be moving on now. Thanks again, Sir Jams a lot. And yeah, we're now going to be getting to Monerokon day one. So yeah, Monerokon happened about a week ago, and it was fantastic. The talks that I've seen so far have been, yeah, they've been great. And everyone that went seemed to have a fantastic time. I got a few emails about it asking me if I had went. I did not go. But the plan is I'm going next year. I will be going to Monerokon and probably Monerotopia as well. That's the plan at least. So, yeah, if you're a fan of the show, I should be there and we can hang out. And yeah, it'll be a good time. But yeah, day one of Monerokon, we have 6 videos here. And by the way, I got to give a shout out to the Monerokon team. They were very gracious in allowing me access to these videos. As of this point, they're not available to the public yet, but I'm kind of a celebrity, so I'm kidding. I did ask them, though, and they provided a link just because they knew I was going to be doing kind of like a little summary of it. But yeah, they gave me the link to 6 different videos, or basically the 6 filmed presentations for day one, which we're going to talk about right now. To kick things off, we had Anhdres, who is the creator of Monerujo, It's a wallet I use for Android. He's a well-known figure in Monero. Super cool dude from Argentina. And, what I really like about his presentation, and this kicked off the conference too. So I thought this was a great way to kick the conference off because it wasn't really a technical discussion, but more about the social part of Monero. And it was kind of like, how do we promote Monero without, being pretentious or, without like turning people off of Monero. And in a way, this was like a very good version of what a Moonboy is. Because like there's nothing I disagree with in this talk necessarily. Because the underlying, I guess, purpose of this presentation is like we want more people to use Monero, which, in a way, like a Moonboy would say that, like, oh, we want more people to buy Monero, which we kind of do, right? But he emphasizes like the actual like cypherpunk reasons we want this to happen. And I really like that. I really agree with a lot of that. So this is like good Moonboyism, I guess. It's Moonboyism that I agree with. And why is it Moonboyism? Because he starts right off the bat that price is important. And it is in a lot of different ways. I mean, if we have the price going up, that means that our mining network becomes stronger, right? We want to have like a really strong mining network. But not only that, though, the more people who find out Monero, all else equal, will mean more people using Monero. And more people using Monero is a good thing, right? So there's like really important things for this. But Anhdres, he really makes it clear, though, that we're running out of time, as he puts it, where the on and off ramps may be becoming more difficult. I'm not sure if I agree with this necessarily, as if we're running out of time, but it is true that like we need to keep, promoting Monero and getting people to use Monero so that it's too big to fail, right? Where we reach a point where even if it's blocked off of everything, people are still going to want to use it. I would argue we're already there, but it never hurts to promote it more. And I think that's really what Anhdres is saying, where he wants more people to use it, right? Now, he talks about how Monero is cool. And I would say the one thing that he does miss here is the reason that Monero is so cool, and that's darknet markets. This is really like, it's the cloud, right? And darknet market maximalism, I talk about this, we're in the cloud building stage. And darknet markets is that cloud. Like when people are talking about cryptocurrency, like it's like, okay, number go up, BS, like, okay, yeah, that's cool. You think the world's going to run the blockchain in the future, whatever. But then you talk about, people buying drugs on the internet, and it's like, oh, okay, shit, yeah, that's true, right? It's like this respect, this actual like implied respect that people have. And I compare it in darknet market maximalism to Tony Soprano walking into a restaurant. It's that type of like, yeah, well, cryptocurrency might be scamish, but damn, like people are like buying and selling very illegal things on the internet with it. Like those guys are hardcore, right? And that type of like, respect that people have for Monero is very powerful. And I think that the cool factor of Monero is entirely derived from that. And like out of the darknet usage of it is really the usage that we see all over the internet, where it's like, if people are using it to buy drugs on the internet, that means it must be pretty strong. It's such a strong propaganda tool. So I think Anhdres, he probably just avoided talking about this. But yeah, this is the one thing I would say, like he probably missed mentioning. But yeah, he talks about Monero being cool, and this is how you get people to use Monero. And I totally agree. We don't have to beg people, right? We don't have to really beg people to use Monero. You want to use Monero because, cool people are using Monero. And right, we've seen this too with like a lot of the popular tech influencers like Luke Smith, Mental Outlaw. They use Monero. Why? Because they're cool. And there you go. That's all you need as an endorsement, right? Cryptocurrency is just so uncool and like so cringy for a lot of people that overcoming that hurdle is quite difficult. And so I can actually speak from my personal experience that part of the reason why I, became attracted to Monero initially was because of like how nerdy it was and like how it did not hold your hand. It was like all through like the terminal, and that turns a lot of people off. Like I'm an outlier in this respect, but that type of like hardcore like cypherpunk kind of aesthetic that it had, that's what drew me into the project in the early days. Now, when it comes to the mainstream, I do think that there is a side of the mainstream where it's just like, because there is that like hardcore, philosophy behind the project, it actually makes it better, even though it turns them off. It's kind of a paradox, but like by the project and the philosophy of the project being so hardcore, it actually just gives it, again, that clout, that respect, right? And that makes it just all the more powerful, and it makes it all the more enticing for people who want to join a project that actually means something, that isn't just LARPing, right? It's doing the work. Another thing he says is half the challenge of convincing people about cryptocurrency is that fiat is shit. And this is totally true, because like, especially if you're in the United States, right? How can you have to convince somebody that using cryptocurrency is better than just using Venmo? And I brought this up multiple times on this channel. I brought this up in interviews. Like, most normies they're just going to use Venmo. Like, to them, that is peer-to-peer cash, or they're going to use Cash App or whatever. Like, you have to convince them that Monero is better than that. And it just, the things that Monero has, it's not as interesting to them. So this is a battle that is very difficult, at least in the West. Now, Anhdres, he's from Argentina. Argentina has dealt with so much inflation issues, and a lot of South American countries have. And, I think that this is really where we should be looking at for early adoption for cryptocurrency, because, like, these people, they want an alternative. They do not want to use fiat anymore. I mean, they're fine with using dollars, but, like, they want alternatives. So it's cool to have that kind of, that mindset of like looking from the perspective of like other countries, right? Because in their case, they actually are really like they're desperate for something new, right? At least in some cases, like where you're looking at rising prices every week. Yeah, you're going to really want an alternative that's actually stable. And, I don't know, crypto is not really stable yet, but we're getting there. And, having, things like stable coins, it's going to become very, very popular. It already is, but it's going to become even more popular over time, because they're going to want something that just represents something that is stable. But yeah, in the West, I mean, it's just so hard to convince somebody who like, who uses like Venmo, like, hey, use Monero instead. And they're just going to be like, why? And you have to overcome that hump. And how do you overcome that? Well, again, just be cool. So this is kind of the whole point of the presentation, is like, you just have to be a cool person, and that's gonna like slowly bring in other people, and also kind of just do your thing, but also, don't feel embarrassed or shy to, reach out to somebody who's like interested, and like kind of tell somebody like, to, check out Monero or whatever. Like, by me having this channel, I am getting many people into Monero. It's crazy. Like, I get emails all the time, like, oh, I love your series. I've learned so much, and that makes me feel really happy. And the thing is, it kind of blows my mind thinking about this. By me making this channel, I'm like, having all these new people get into Monero through me, and then they're gonna have all these new people get into Monero through them. You know what I mean? It like flows down like a tree, and that's crazy. It's kind of mind blowing. Like I don't know. Like 20 years from now, I may be responsible for like millions of Monero users. So like having that mindset where you're just kind of like, thinking positively, but not being like an obnoxious maximalist, and finding that and towing that line, it's really crucial for the long-term success of a project. So anyway, yeah, that was a really great talk. He goes into a lot of other things as well about being cool and stuff. So yeah, check that out for sure. We then had Dr. Sarang. He was a Monero Research Lab member for a while. He went to Firo, and now he's with Alpin, I think. It's a Lightning Network Bitcoin thing, I believe. I actually listened to an interview with him like 3 months ago, I think. 3-4 months ago. Yeah, I mean, he's doing his own thing. We love Sarang. Actually, a little story about Sarang that I don't think anyone knows about. But I went to Monerotopia in 2022 in Miami. And it was the first year, so it was a little unorganized, you know. It was a lot of fun, but it definitely like we were winging it, right? And so yeah, there was like a lot of like audio issues, like technical issues, and Sarang was like working his butt off helping people or helping Doug in like the event like happen. And if it wasn't for Sarang, I don't know if the event would have happened. Like he was like doing all this like technical work and helping out, and like I don't think he was hired. Like he was just doing that to help out. So he's like a really, really good dude. Seems like the nicest guy. But like I noticed that. I'm not sure if anyone else noticed that, but I thought that was really cool because yeah, dealing with technical issues is so frustrating. And it seemed like he took time out of his day to help people. So that was pretty cool. And so yeah, his talks are always really easy. He's actually a very good presenter, and that he dumbs it down. So he doesn't really like go over the math, but he also like is good at, you know, giving metaphors and things that you can actually latch onto. Of course, if you've watched Breaking Monero, he's in I think pretty much every episode. He does a really good job of, you know, breaking down concepts just so you can understand it, right? And so anyway, his talk is all about coin ownership. And he compares the different types of ways you can prove coin ownership. So he talks about Monero and ring signatures and the pros and cons of it. You know, and I mean, we know this at this point, the cons of ring signatures, why we want to move to something else, right? But you know, he talks about like it's bad for scaling, it's linear. The math is really straightforward, but like it's not ideal, right? And also, as we know from a privacy perspective, it also isn't ideal as well. So then he talks about Firo, which uses, I wrote this down, Grothel? I can't pronounce the name of the proof. Also, my handwriting sucks. But anyway, he has a different type of protocol that he uses. He calls it like a bucket structure as opposed to a ring signature. And yeah, I honestly don't really remember how it works exactly. It's just it's a better version of ring signatures. And I guess Seraphis, which was the original plan for Monero, it was going to be of this type where the scaling is better, and it's like it's faster, it's easier to prove, so you can have like larger sizes of anonymity sets. But it's not like to the size of what we're getting with full chain membership proofs. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, then he talks about Merkle trees, which is what Zcash uses and what full chain membership proofs uses. And the gist here is that you get a representation of each coin that shows information for the entire set. And you have proof of ownership without providing a large amount of information. So basically, you can prove something without showing everything. Kind of, I guess this would be a zero knowledge proof, maybe? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the technical term for that, but that's essentially what it is. And because of that, you can have very large anonymity sets. You can have faster verification times, depending on things. But yeah, there's a lot more math involved. But it's much better at scaling. And yeah, as we've seen with full chain membership proofs, the anonymity sets are now in the hundreds of millions, right? So it's much, much, much bigger. Now, when it comes to the, he says proving systems are different between full chain membership proofs and Zcash. I forget if he like goes into, I don't think he went into detail on this because it starts to get like very technical. So he didn't do that. And there's also, yeah, there's a lot more math involved here, which thankfully the presentation did not do. So I wouldn't have to embarrass myself trying to like make sense of these formulas. But he did answer a question about quantum, where he basically said that quantum can break things and that it's a very complicated subject. So I guess he didn't really answer it. He was just like, yeah, this is a whole nother talk, basically. But yeah, basically that was Sarang's talk. More on the technical side. If you're interested in like a good overview of like the different systems, check that one out. So then we heard from Jeffro, who was breaking down SPVs, which are simplified payment verifications. So basically with this, like when you run Monero, right, you have to download the entire node or the entire blockchain for if you're running a node. And that's just, it's a lot, right? You're downloading every single transaction ever. It's just a lot of information. But there's these things called SPVs where basically you're downloading only the block headers. And the idea here is that the block headers will have a hashed version of the entire block, and it essentially proves everything it essentially proves everything inside of the block. So it's a way to like have a much lighter version of a node, essentially. So back to full chain membership proofs, obviously we have this idea where we are going to have a way to prove the ownership of a coin out of a huge anonymity set. And it does this with these things called Merkle trees. This is like super hard to describe. Like you have to kind of look at a graph of it with like, it's like a diagram of a tree with flowing down and there's like roots and stuff. Does this make any sense? I don't know. But all you need to know though is basically it creates a path to the transaction output that you are using, okay? But the problem is if you create that transaction path, it is bad for privacy, right? Because if you're like using a node and you're like, I want to send this output, they're going to know which output you're sending because you're pointing to that direct output on the blockchain and it's showing the entire root of the transaction of all the set of outputs, right? If you're pointing to that transaction, it's going to know which transaction output you're spending, right? So basically, to get around this problem, there's this thing called heliosaline, where basically it proves elements without proving elements. And there's like a whole diagram with that. You could check out the presentation. But basically, it's a way that we can prove the transaction output without saying the information. So I think this would be a zero knowledge proof, right? I think it's the same thing, whatever. But this is like one of the ways that they're getting around this problem. And so anyway, yeah, that is Jeffro's talk on SPVs. It does seem like there's going to be a lot more potential going forward for this type of technology to develop. So pretty cool things. So next up, we had Stringhandler talking about Tari and P2 pool and merge mining. So basically, Tari is merge mined with Monero. And the way merge mining works is you have like a parent mining chain, which is Monero, and you also have Tari. And basically, they're just mining both at the same time. And if they solve a Monero block, they include the Tari block information in the Monero block. And it's basically it's a way to improve the amount of people who are going to be mining Tari. It increases the amount of people that are mining Monero. It essentially strengthens both of them. And you can look into the technical stuff if you're interested in how merge mining works. Honestly, I'm having a difficult time trying to explain it. I've already re-recorded this like 3 times, and I'm like, screw it. I'm terrible at explaining merge mining, I guess. But basically, the way Tari is set up is they're mining different protocols at the same time. So they're merge mining with RandomX. They're also mining SHA-3X, which is an ASIC protocol. And they are also mining a GPU algorithm as well. And the reason they're doing that is because of what's called a zero cost attack, which I was never aware of. But basically, by having multiple algorithms, you prevent somebody who's like just like a really big centralized miner from just taking over a blockchain, right? Because like, for example, like let's say if there was like this massive mining pool for Monero, and they were merge mining Tari, well, they would just take all of Tari as well because they're the dominant chain on Monero. Monero is bigger than Tari, right? So by having multiple mining algorithms, you prevent that from happening because they're not going to be dominating the SHA-3 algorithm. At least that's how I understand it. So anyway, the talk also goes over the pros and cons of pool mining versus, P2 pool and things like that. So interesting if you like mining. Check this one out. So next up, we have Justin Ehronhofer, who talked about Magic, which is basically a public charity whose mission includes the maintenance of public blockchain infrastructure. So really the two main projects they're working on is Monero and Sarai. Actually, they're doing a lot of work with that. And really, the purpose of Magic is to kind of act as like a coordinator between, these projects and auditors and research companies. So, they're picking different vendors, they're picking different auditors, they're negotiating so they can, Magic can help save Monero money by doing this. They're operating with dollars as well, so it makes things easier. And with full chain membership proofs, as we've discussed on this program, the divisors is kind of like the big thing. A lot of work has gone into this. Divisors basically make full chain membership proofs 10 times faster to verify. So we really want these to work. And right now, the Cypher Stack audit is being completed. And once that's completed, it's going to be audited by another company. And once that's done, I think pretty much everything is audited at that point. There is some other stuff they mentioned, including the completion of the elliptic curve library. So that's being worked on as well. That should be done pretty soon. And, really then full chain membership proofs is just going to be like testing it and actually implementing it. In actual fact, we could have full chain membership proofs right now. They're just not audited. So we could just publish it right now. And if it's broken, then, well, whatever. But this is why we do the auditing, to prevent like a problem like that from happening. He also talked about Sarai, which had a peer review done by Trail of Bits, which was about the Ethereum smart contract stuff going on there. They have another one that's going to audit how their keys are generated. Another thing Magic is doing is RPC fuzzing. Basically, that's like a way to like stress test like RPC protocols. So it's just a really good way to like harden infrastructure, essentially. And the other thing I mentioned was a new Monero Explorer API written in Rust, which I didn't even know about. So I guess that's another thing to look forward to. And the last talk, Ospeed, right? The one I did. So Ospeed, awesome. Definitely check it out if you're interested in learning about how ring signatures need to be improved. This is all about the decoy selection algorithm of Monero. And it's unfortunately kind of broken. Broken might not be the right word for it, but it's not as good as it could be, is probably a better way of saying it. Yeah, a lot of people look at this and, they say that ring signatures are useless. I disagree. Ring signatures still work really well. And honestly, a lot of the theories of this, like completely breaking Monero, I think are exaggerated, mostly because it's hard to like prove this in a court of law, I think, which is why we haven't seen any like poison outputs used in any like, criminal complaints. I don't know how well this would hold up in court, to be honest. But it's definitely not ideal. And as we've seen with Ospeed, it can be improved with the decoy selection algorithm that Rucknium proposes. Not that it matters, because we're going to switch over to full chain membership proofs. But this is a good summary of everything that went down with that. And I'm really happy I was able to get the chance to do the talk. And yeah, that's pretty much that. So definitely check that one out if you're interested. And Ospeed. And that about summarizes it. Day one of Monerokon. was pretty awesome. And we're going to have day 2 next week, so stay tuned for that. All right, let's get to some news. First off, IntelBroker, the notorious threat actor, was captured due to Bitcoin blockchain forensics. So basically, according to the complaint, IntelBroker, they primarily accepted Monero, but law enforcement sent them a message asking to pay in Bitcoin. He said yes. And from that, they were able to pretty easily connect that to a Coinbase wallet with all of his information. And that was that. And from there, they were able to do a bunch of other stuff. For example, they had his Gmail account, and he was watching this one obscure video, and then he posted that video right after he watched it onto Breach Forums, which was the website he ran, which had all these different hacks and stuff that he was posting. Anyway, he posted the video on Breach Forums right after he was looking at it on his Gmail. Things like that. The rabbit hole even goes deeper too, because apparently this kid was arrested when he was 17 years old. Because apparently this guy, Kai West is the name of the suspect. He was actually arrested back in 2018 when he was only 17, being accused of swatting and bomb threat hoaxes, amongst other things. And then the feds, they attempted to rehabilitate him, and they helped him get into a university and things like that. And what does he do? He then uses that full ride, and then he commits more crime. So he's absolutely screwed, and they're gonna throw the book at him. Total idiot. Now, I did see a lot of people kind of bringing up how could this guy be so stupid? I saw that quite a bit, and it's true. You have somebody who's dealing with highly illegal things. Why would you even use Bitcoin, right? And it's true that he usually did not use Bitcoin. So why did he use it in that one instance? Who knows? The thing is, he was like a 23-year-old kid. He might have been drunk, right? He might have been just caught at the wrong time. My assumption is that the feds had been doing some social engineering, because if you look at the complaint, they paid for different services in Monero previously. So he knows this is a repeat customer. They hit him up one night and they're like, hey, can we buy this? Well, I only have Bitcoin right now. Can we just use Bitcoin? I don't know how they did it, but they convinced him. And that's all it took. The thing is, with feds, if they just get a breadcrumb, they can bake a whole apple pie. Right? That's all it took. All it took was that one Bitcoin address. And then from there, they got everything. And I have a hunch that they already had suspicions that it was this kid, right? Because if it fits the profile, probably his login times was UK times as well. They probably had their sights on him, but they couldn't prove that it was him. And the blockchain forensics, that doesn't even have to be that accurate, right? Once they got even just the smallest hook, they could use that as a subpoena and then just get all the information they want. That parallel construction, that's all they need. And in this case, once they got that Bitcoin foot in the door, it was all over. And they then ran with everything. So, he's a real piece of garbage, though, so can't really be that upset. You might be wondering, though, they were sending Monero to him as well, so it was possible they were trying to do some timing analysis. But it's unclear if that actually got anywhere. It doesn't really sound like it. Next up, we got some good news for Bitcoin. Whirlpool is back. Love to see it. Now, the team at Ashigaru, they've been around now for about a year. They've been building their reputation, right? And we don't know anything about this team. They're all anonymous. But they've been putting in work trying to, build back Bitcoin privacy, because Bitcoin privacy right now, pretty much non-existent. And Samurai Wallet, the way I view them, I think I've used this metaphor in the past. They were like the Helm's Deep of Bitcoin, right? Once they went down, it was just like, ugh. But the good news is that cypherpunk's soul, it's still there in Bitcoin, and it has made up this team now, Ashigaru. They're anonymous. Not much is known about these guys. Well, nothing's known about them really. They have a website, and they have now put out a zerolink CoinJoin coordinator. Okay, so this is huge news. And I think what I'm going to eventually do is I want to make a little mini series about using Ashigaru, just because while Monero is obviously the best choice for using privacy today, it is still worth it to understand how to use Bitcoin privately. And this is really the best way of using Bitcoin privately. So it would be a good idea for me to actually put some effort into making a series for that. Only like 5 or so episodes, but something that people can go and look at and get an idea of what to do to use Bitcoin. So basically, they have this download on Windows, Mac, and Linux called the Terminal. It's not actually a CLI. It's kind of like a terminal window that you can use down arrows and hit enter for. So it's pretty user friendly. It's only for Tor, so you can't use it on the Clarinet. Tor is built into it, which I love to see. They have new pool sizes, so they have a 0.025 BTC pool and a 0.25 BTC pool. One thing that sucks is that the fees are 5%. So the fees are a little pricey compared to what they used to be. There's a max of 20 UTXOs that can be used per mix. And the biggest downside, though, is that we are still relying on a centralized coordinator. So this CoinJoin implementation is run by a single entity, this Ashigaru entity. So you have to basically have trust in them. And that definitely is a problem. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Not ideal. Now, long term, the Ashigaru team, they are planning on having a decentralized whirlpool. And this is actually what Samurai Wallet was working towards. And in fact, they were, I think, on the cusp of actually releasing it before the takedown from the feds. But yeah, the decentralized coordinator, that definitely is the future. But right now, it is still centralized in that regard. So there are some privacy concerns with that. I have to do more research on this myself. On Twitter, there was some back and forth, and it was kind of hard to keep track of what was going on. So I'm going to have to do more research on that myself. Now, a lot of my information is from the recent Ungovernable Misfits podcast. That was really good. So check that out. Also check out Catan, which is spelled K3TAN.com. He's got a good blog post on it, as well as a video that goes along with it using the terminal. Seems to be really smooth to use, so that's pretty based. And yeah, already, let's see here. We have, there's already 20 Bitcoin in the whirlpool, 250 UTXOs, and 120 coin joins. So pretty cool. It's already being used by a lot of people. So yeah, I'm telling you, there is a lot of demand for privacy in Bitcoin. I know Bitcoin has this really bad reputation, and a lot of people who are Monero only might not know about the history with Bitcoin, but the Samurai Wallet guys were Giga-based. They were the OGs, okay? And yeah, unfortunately, yeah, Bitcoin on the whole sucks ass right now, but there's still pockets of based individuals in Bitcoin, and this is Exhibit A. So yeah, again, I'm going to be eventually having a series showing you how to use Bitcoin privately, probably with this CoinJoin implementation. I think that would be just a nice, separate playlist I can have on my channel. But yeah, good to see. Anyway, up next, PewDiePie's privacy journey continues. He now has a video featuring Graphene OS. So yeah, PewDiePie, for those who aren't aware, is a YouTuber. He's semi-retired now, so he doesn't really release that much content anymore. He just releases content he's interested in. And apparently he's been really into Linux lately, which I have heard about because he's actually like a fan of Arch. I use Arch, by the way. And anyway, he's been talking about Arch a lot in like open source software. And he just released a video talking about graphene and how he's de-Googling. And I mean, I gotta be honest with you guys. This is a huge white pill. This is really awesome to see because, not only is it great to see like a popular influencer talking about privacy and things like that, but he's doing it in the right way. This isn't like forced. Like he's clearly passionate about it and he's saying like all the right things, which is like really cool to see. And like, I don't think we're going to see like all these other influencers like, hop on this and like also become like privacy advocates. I doubt that's going to happen, but this is definitely going to have an impact. And you're going to see probably an uptick in Graphene OS usage because of this endorsement. So all else equal, this is like a huge white pill. Now, it then comes to mind that, well, he's talking about Linux. He's talking about Graphene OS. What about Monero? And yeah, I would be lying if I said that didn't cross my mind as well. A lot of other people are thinking it. In fact, I saw some YouTube comments about it. A couple months ago, I was talking about Jack Dorsey and how, in my mind, he was the front runner of being the early Monero endorsement from an influencer. Like we haven't really seen that yet, but this would be a huge endorsement. And if you have like a poly market betting on who's going to be the influencer to talk about Monero first, PewDiePie's in the front now for sure. He's doing everything the right way, and it's absolutely plausible that he'll talk about Monero. It just is. Am I betting on it? No, not necessarily. But if he is going to be talking about cryptocurrency, I would be shocked if he talked about anything else. Or at least I would be shocked if he didn't at least talk about Monero. Maybe he's interested in other projects as well, which is totally fine. But it is very, very possible. And again, I would be not as happy about this if it wasn't for the fact that he's like saying all the right things. Like he's like clearly very passionate about Arch and he's like doing ricing for it, and he's like just clearly passionate about like self-hosting, and you love to see it, right? But I'm happy for Graphene though, because I mean we talked about this last week where Graphene's going through some issues with pixels now and stuff. So just this like endorsement, I'm sure they're going to get a ton of donations because of this. I mean, like, damn, I saw that PewDiePie upload the video like an hour ago, right? And he already had like 6,000 comments. It was like, holy crap. The amount of people who like watch his content is ridiculous. So, yeah, these influencers, this is like people talk about like how different like things are going to pump a cryptocurrency, right? Like people are like, oh, people are waiting for full chain membership proofs to buy Monero. No, they're not. Okay. Monero is going to pump if someone popular talks about Monero. That's it. It's not, people already know what Monero is. And most people who have cryptocurrency respect Monero, but it's like, yeah, I'm not going to buy it kind of thing. It's not exciting to them. But if you want that money to come pouring in, it really comes down to influencers. 100%. You want somebody to endorse it. Or at least from the perspective of the Moonboy, they want somebody to endorse it. That's what gets them like really excited. So anyway, yeah, PewDiePie, shout out. So we got here an article talking about how the U.S. Director of Federal Housing orders mortgage providers to accept Fartcoin when assessing creditworthiness. Oh yeah, I was seeing this on Twitter this week where people were taking like screenshots from The Big Short, but like imposing in like quotes satirizing this with like talking about like, oh, it was Steve Carell talking to the prostitute. The prostitute's talking about like Fartcoin, instead of the houses she owns and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much of a comment on this other than, yeah, this is a bubble and not good. And for what it's worth, like, we're in almost July at this point. So how many more months do we have before the bull run ends? You know what I mean? Doesn't seem like it has much left in the tank, but I'm going to say this now, and Bitcoin's going to be $300 million next week. So the fuck do I know? All right, let's move on. Oh, this one's cool. Mexican drug cartel used hacker to track an FBI official. And then they killed potential informants, according to a government audit. A Mexican drug cartel hired a hacker to surveil the movements of a senior FBI official in Mexico City in 2018 or earlier, gathering information about the city's camera system that allowed the cartel to kill potential FBI informants, the Justice Department Inspector General said in a new report. The hacker also was able to see calls made and received by the FBI official and their geolocation data in a major breach of operational security. It goes on to say, according to the case agent, the cartel used this information to intimidate and, in some instances, kill potential sources or cooperating witnesses. The stunning new details offer a rare look of how technology can be exploited in the high-stakes battle between the U.S. law enforcement, the violent Mexican cartels that control the illicit drug trade. Yeah, I guess the cartel has hackers now. Man, imagine if we get ransomware from cartels. That's new territory. Yeah, well, I mean, why not, right? We already have like ransomware with North Korea, the Russians. Why not the Mexican cartels? I mean, they have like so much money. If you've ever watched like these videos of the cartels, man, it's freaking wild. They got like drones. They have like tanks, basically. Not tanks, but it's like those like weaponized vehicles they have. I went through a phase where I watched like crazy narco footage. I'll leave it at that. Okay, go to Blog del Narco. All right, don't go there. It's freaking wild. The cartels, man. Like, I don't know where they come up with this like execution stuff, but holy shit, man. I think it's that Aztec blood, man. Fucking insane. I gotta say, the gangs over in the United States are totally pussy compared to what they're doing in Mexico. They're like cutting out hearts and shit. The fuck? Anyway, now they're hacking too, so who the hell knows? So we got some statistics here. Nano GPT, they put out their statistics. So this is an AI service that is primarily using the nano currency, but after the month of May, Monero was number one. They had 47.36% of the total volume, with Nano coming in second with 18.45%, and Bitcoin at 11.52%. So based, I haven't used this. I actually do want to try out some AI stuff like soon. So I am going to probably check this out. And they take Monero now. So check out Nano-GPT if you're interested. So next up, this made the rounds this past week, talking about the Monero ticker. And we have this guy from Cake Wallet who made this post asking for thoughts on changing the Monero ticker to MON instead of XMR. And it got very negative feedback from me as well, mostly because this guy, he posted this, this idea. Everyone shot it down, and then Cake Wallet like retweeted it. I don't know why. And it got even, so then I was just like, yeah, the idea sucks. Like, stop asking. So anyway, changing the Monero ticker to MON is the idea. And I don't really see the reason for this. I guess I do see like I would be more friendly, I suppose. And to take this like seriously though, like MON, it's hard to say, right? like, how would you say that? Would you say moan or mon? You know what I mean? Mun? Vowels are weird, is what I'm trying to say. Also, XMR, it just rolls better, right? It's like BTC, XMR. Like it sounds finite, I guess. USD, right? Would you say MON? Maybe? I don't know. The thing about brands, okay, branding is like so important. And so this guy, he's like really into branding. So he should know this. XMR is already its own brand. Maybe you don't know this, but like if you've been in Monero, it's a very recognizable brand for us. And changing it right now would be it would just be bad. It's just a bad reflection of the project. You know? I get like maybe you think it would be more, you know, user friendly. But I don't know, like I really have a hard time believing that this is like the factor that's preventing people from getting into Monero. What's preventing people from getting into Monero is being told to buy Monero. Again, they're waiting for an influencer to tell them to buy Monero. That's what the normies are waiting for. You know, it's not them doing research and then being like, oh, that's a cool looking ticker. Like that's not what's happening. I get it though with branding. Like for example, right? This channel has branding with Monero Chan everywhere. I picked my own distinct Monero Chan design. There's a lot of black and orange. That's how I wanted it. I have the logo for Anti Moonboy. But even my Twitter, right? I have the same profile picture. I'm never going to change it. It's a unique picture of Monero Chan with the bars over her eyes. And you see that on Twitter, you're going to immediately know it's me. Right? So if I change that, it would just be weird. I actually really dislike when people change their profile picture for exactly that reason. Because it's just like your identity, kind of, right? And when you change that, there's something that's a loss there. So I feel that with Monero, XMR, it's just part of the identity. And changing it would be stupid. And it doesn't look good. Frankly, it looks cooler the way it is. Because it kind of seems like encrypted in a way. It's not, but it's just different. I don't know. It sticks out in my opinion. And moan or mon sucks. It just doesn't look good. And I don't really think it's that user-friendly, to be honest. I think it's kind of confusing because of the vowel makes it confusing. Next up, we got Portonmail. And apparently, they are now considering adding Monero as a payment option. And they said they'll reconsider if people sign this change.org thing. So you can do that. Apparently, they're asking for like 1,000 signatures in 2 days, which is like a lot. Whatever. I did sign it. I know other people did as well. But I can understand if people don't want to sign this because honestly, this company sucks. The way they've handled cryptocurrency since day one has been terrible. And like back, if you look at April Fools with the way they mocked Monero, it's just like, why would you want to deal with these guys, right? They're not taking anything seriously. And the way I look at it, like, we shouldn't be begging them to use Monero. They should want to use Monero. If they're a legitimate company, especially if they're a company that prides in privacy, they should be saying, we want to use Monero. You know, not like, hey guys, go to change.org, get 1,000 signatures. Like, it's just like, in my opinion, it's not really repairing their image. You know, really what they should do is they should, if they want like to build respect, they should just say, you know what, we screwed up a cryptocurrency portion of things. We underestimated Monero's use, blah, 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 right? But instead, they're kind of like playing this game of like, well, if we got a lot of support, we got a lot of interest. It's like, dude, Monero is clearly being used. What's being used on darknet markets right now? It's the largest privacy economy dependent on cryptocurrency, peer-to-peer cryptocurrency. What are they using? It's outrageous that this is even a question of whether or not they should be doing this. So to wrap up the show, we're going to be playing a clip from Aaron Day, who responded to the Zano, as he puts it, nothing burger. We're going to hear what he says, and I'm going to comment on it.
About ready to introduce our guest for tonight, Matt Kim, and I've actually got an interesting way of teeing this up, and it actually ties into Zano. So I know many of you have reached out to me. There was some FUD that was spread while we were at PorkFest last week about there were some people that were claiming that the Zano network had been there had been a privacy breach, and that somehow they were able to deduce whose wallets, who owned what wallets, and it's completely false. This is a very similar FUD to what's happened in the past. So, in essence, the one thing you have to understand is that it's a function of the design of all of these privacy coins, where you need to use a VPN. So if you're not using a VPN, I mean, there still is kind of a metadata issue with respect to using privacy coins. And so the Zano team has been very upfront about the fact that you should use a VPN. I know I've talked about it in the past as well. But what they were trying to claim is, well, they were able to look at this metadata, and because people are staking crypto, they were making the claim that you could figure out, based on the amount of rewards tied to IP addresses, how many coins somebody is likely to have. But the truth is, that's not even true either, because it's not like they were looking at a single IP address. They were looking at a shared IP address that many people may have been using. So it really was a gigantic nothing burger, but it was planted, I believe, intentionally to coincide with Monerotopia. But this ties into the fact that it's not just Zano, it's also Zcash, it's also Monero. I mean, you need to use a VPN.
I keep saying Zano instead of Zano. Whatever. Anyways, I know you guys can't see the video for this, but I can tell you that he is very clearly reading off of his computer monitor. He sounds really nervous. Like, this is like not his wheelhouse at all, like, clearly. And we know that he has no idea what he's talking about, because like, he's, one, not understanding the actual issue, and two, giving really bad advice. Okay, so he keeps saying that you need to use a VPN. I mean, he says that multiple times, and that's not the problem here, and that's also not great advice. The problem right now with Zano is that there is no way for somebody to send a transaction without having their IP tied to that transaction. If you run your own Zano node and you send a transaction, your IP address is attached to that transaction. Well, assuming there's spy nodes, which there are. That's a problem. Now, to get around this, you have two options. Okay. The first option is to use a VPN. But in that case, you are trusting a third party. You can use a VPN, but you're putting trust into a VPN. Alternatively, and this is from Zano themselves, they have recommendations of what you can do. This is their second recommendation. You can, when you're running a node, only allow connections with approved community nodes, which is centralization. So they're saying only allow the Zano community nodes to connect to your node, which means you're putting trust into those community nodes, which is really bad. They don't have Tor, and they don't have I2P. Unacceptable. So if you're running a node, you're kind of screwed, because there's no way you can send a transaction like in the weeds. Now, the majority of people using Zano, like Aaron Day here, they're not running their own node. So what they're doing is they're just connecting to a server or like a wallet to send their node. But in that case, that server, that they're connecting to has their information. So they're putting trust into that server. Now, here's the issue, okay? With the VPNs, they can be subpoenaed. That's the difference. You go to any VPN, they can get subpoenaed, and then they have to give over their information. You can't subpoena Tor. How are you going to subpoena Tor? Right? How can you subpoena I2P? You can't. And that's why they're better. They're open source protocols. And they're just better at masking what you're doing anyways. That's why like darknet markets are not accessed with VPNs. They're accessed through Tor. They have to be accessed through Tor. because anything else would be compromised. Another thing is, I don't think Aaron Day understands Dandelion++ at all. Clearly he doesn't. But this actually helps somebody on the ClearNet. Because if you're running your own node with Dandelion++, it's very difficult to tell the origin of that transaction being sent. Now, it can still be attacked if there's a lot of spy nodes. I just did a presentation for that at Monerokon, but it's very difficult. So this guy, he's just not getting this at all. And so in this clip too, he starts showing this thing vp.net, which is this new VPN, and it's backed by Roger Ver and the Mt. Gox guy. Like, and he's like full on shilling it too, even though it's got like no reputation at all. But like this guy, he just doesn't care, right? Aaron Day, he's the type of guy where you just tell him, yeah, this is private, and he'll say, oh, okay. He's not doing any research. Unfortunately, he's got like this big audience, and he's just giving bad advice. And he's like calling this a nothing burger is just completely irresponsible. And unfortunately, pretty much everyone on the Zano team is saying that. And that's a gigantic red flag, because this is not a nothing burger. This is actually quite serious, and it needs to be taken seriously. All right, that's enough talking out of me today. AntiMoonboy.com. I also have merch, AntiMoonboy.com/merch, if you'd like to donate and get something out of it. XMRchat.com/Zenu, if you'd like to send a super chat. But yeah, tune in next week. I will be covering Monerokon Day 2, amongst other things. Hope you guys have a good one. See you soon.